In this part, we're going to take a look at Nimzovich's strategy of blockade. The example game I've chosen is Aaron Nimzovich versus George Salvi from Carlsbad, which is now Carlsbad or Karlovy Vary, Czech Republic, 1911. The game begins with e4, Nimzovich is white, Salvi black. e6, probably Nimzovich's favorite opening to actually play against. d4, d5, and then e5. We reach a fixed structure in the center. This is a topic we'll touch on later in the class, but for now I'll just leave it as a special position, particularly for Nimzovich, where he was able to create a lot of new ideas about how to play blocked pawn structures by creating outpost squares for his pieces. And the following game is very interesting, where he goes against classical, or what was classical theory in that time. Salvi breaks against the center here, which is a very important move, putting pressure on white's, the base of white's center there at d4. Nimzovich plays c3. He would experiment with other moves like queen g4 and knight f3 in his career in that position. Very interesting stuff. This move, actually possibly sacrificing a pawn and not recapturing on d4. Also queen g4, another interesting move, which is bringing the queen out to this field where white has a lot of space because of the pawn at e5. Queen is actually relatively safe from attack. Notice this knight can't be brought out to f6. But back to the game, Nimzovich finally reconciled himself to the fact that probably c3 is the best move, the others being interesting moves, but objectively more correct. Salvi here plays knight to c6, and now knight to f3, supporting the center. Black puts more pressure on the center, again attacking the base of the pawn chain, which most strong players agree is the correct strategy. We now kind of talk about it like Nimzovich. It really explained all the theory to us, but it was known before his time that attacking the base of the pawn chain was the correct way to play. Notice you'll see black here violate in a few moves a very important principle. Bishop d3, bishop d7. This actually threatens to win a pawn here, this pawn on d4. And at this point, castles is the Milner-Barry gambit. If we play castles in this position, we have cd, cd, knight takes d4, knight takes d4, queen takes d4, and this is called the Milner-Barry gambit. Hey everyone, welcome to Video Chess Training on YouTube. For something a little bit different, I thought we'd just play some games here, sort of casually, and annotate them while we're playing, you know, just for fun. We'll play some Blitz, maybe even watch some other players play and kind of commentate the game. I think that might be an interesting concept here for a short video. So another idea I would like to incorporate into the YouTube channel is maybe short videos on weird and new opening ideas. You know, I had some ideas today, but I decided to kind of put them on the back burner because I don't think they were good enough. We need to find interesting ideas in the opening, keep coming up with new stuff. So informal video today, guys. We're going to play just a couple Blitz games and talk about it as we play. All right, play. Let's just lobby it and see if we can find someone to play here. Or we can go to a tournament. Let's go to open tournaments. Hourly Blitz starting in a few seconds. Hourly Blitz. Let's do it. Donnie Darko's. Donnie Darko's. Okay, he's legitimate. I recently saw a guy I don't really like here on setting up an account on lichess, a kind of arch enemy of mine. And, well, that reminded me of him a little bit, but he's much stronger than 2000, so this is not the guy. All right, we can join here. We're about to start. CM Blue Eagle. CM, it's so So hard to evaluate people's strengths based on CM. I mean, he could be really, really strong, or he could be... His rating isn't very high to be a CM. Then again, rating is overrated. He's super fast, though. That's part and parcel. Trying to think if knight h6 is something I want to do. It's interesting to play knight h6. Maybe castle followed by knight a6. He's just leaving his knight on b5, like in the dead zone there. I wonder if I have any kind of tactics on that guy. I really want to play f5. He can do f5 as a pawn sacrifice. You know, now I'm going to do it. It's like just in time for he can play f5 himself. This kills his attacking chances to some degree. Like the bishop on c1, the rook on f1 kind of shut down. This is the first time I've actually like done a video of playing live here on lichess for a long time. And maybe I started last year recording a few videos doing this, but for the most part I've done like live streaming. Knight there is an annoying move. It's like very difficult for me to get out of this pin ever. So that's going to be a problem. What am I going to do? What am I going to do about this issue? Man, that is annoying. I mean, he can't really do anything to me. I guess that's the positive side of things. But it leaves us in this weird, tense situation where I can never move my knight. You know, it's just extremely awkward. Very fast player. We're just in permanent pin here. It's so... Rook f7. Laterally, what am I going to do? Rook e7. Looks like that's what I'm going to have to do. Some crazy lateral rook defense or something. Just can't think of a way out of this pin. That is a terrible move for white. God, he had me tied down forever. And he played that move. Just I can breathe for a minute. So fortunate. I mean, white is still okay, I guess, but I was in such an awkward situation there. He's playing fast. This guy is from Italy. He seems pretty solid. Bishop f6. Just because I move my king to f7 doesn't mean it has to stay there the whole game. Maybe I should actually put it back on g7. Queen f3 is like a ridiculous move. Okay. This is what he wanted to do. Okay, I don't see anything better than trading here at this point. We're just a tiny bit better. The bishop versus knight, but I mean, to be honest, he's threatening e5 here. Bishop could be an advantage. It's not much. Truthfully, this is probably equal. Nimzovician move. Very positional. I'm going to have to probably avoid letting him have that e5. Avoid letting him have that e5 square and play d5 myself. Can't give him the square. So he's got me fixed on some white squares here, which isn't really optimal, but I think we're okay. We've got d4. We're ensuring that our bishop will live. It's not going to be a bad piece. Kind of a mixed bag. C4 is pretty extreme. I could take on C3, B5. Does this guy look like closed positions, or what do you think? I think he likes closed positions. Plays the closed Sicilian. He goes for knight versus bishop. He tries to lock it up with F4, E5. I hope his endgame technique is bad. That's all I can say. I don't know which rook matters here, really. What's my rook doing on E8? We'll need to centralize the king. Be rook B6. Have a lot of time here. He took it. It's a tough call. I have to hold this pawn until I can get over there with my king. Then I'm going to be better. He doesn't really have any counterplay. He has the worst structure, possibly the worst minor piece. We're probably going to need to open another line. Well, we're definitely going to need to open another line. H6 and G5. He's giving me G5. Principle of two weaknesses. But he's so fast. All right. His knight is kind of hurting here. Knight e2, bishop f3 is interesting. At some point. We got 2 pawn islands against 3. Better minor piece, better king. Principle of two weaknesses, working both sides of the board with the 2 pawn chains. Nobody's watching our game. Uh-oh, he decided to take, which denies us like an open line for our rook. Now it's going to be a little tricky how to do this. How do I do this? How do I make progress? Not easy to say. I think maybe my king is going to need to come over to the other side. Man, this is tough. Wow. All right. I'm making a kind of crazy break here. Take bishop e4. Bishop's very strong. He's sort of paralyzed. But I still don't see an easy way to make progress. Should probably wait on this. I thought I can win a pawn. If e4 should be winning for me. We got 2 connected passed pawns here. Winning technical ending. I'm going to pause the tournament here. Let's take a look at this game while we have the chance here. Sparkle Horse. Go to profile. I mean, I don't intend to play the whole game for the stream, for this video. All right, go to analysis board. We'll see what happened here. So e4, c5, knight c3, knight c6, f4, g6. This is all theory, and Yul Skinner, one of our regular contributors on my stream, he's actually often playing this exact variation. We've had the same exact position against Yul Skinner. I've looked at this. So d5 is the old theory that I looked at 20 years ago with Roman Djindjiashvili and Eugene Perelstein and other people, the Feingold, Brian Smith, or some other game like that. Joel Benjamin has a game he won with white. I like d6 better. It's like more flexible. I have two bishops. I don't want the pawn structure to get overly locked. I think the knight is sort of silly on b5, so I'm not in a hurry to kick it out. d3, I've faced d4 from Yul Skinner. He's worked quite a bit on that move. d3, I think more natural. And now we play knight h6, and this is actually a pretty rare move. Leonid Shamkovich played it back in 1983. Only 4 games. It's the question of move order here. Knight f6. That's definitely like the normal move. Okay, knight h6 experimental. He plays queen e1, which is the most common move. Although it's 3 out of 5 games. It's also the best move at first sight by Stockfish, but it's a standard move. Okay. Here I castled. We're no longer in Leonid Shamkovich territory. Well, white probably didn't play queen e1 in that old game. Boris Savchenko, 2017 against Nikola Nikolevsky. What else do we have here? For games, nothing really interesting. Alexander Moisenko was unable to beat Olga Alexandrova in 2000. Okay, so bishop d7, I think that would be normal too. I castled queen h4, and here I played f5 right away. Now I could kick his knight, but again, I think it's sort of stupidly placed. So now knight g5. This is really a pain. I mean, how am I going to get out of this pin? It's such a strange situation. Request computer analysis. We can actually do that. Request computer analysis. It's a nice feature here on lichess. It's going to analyze the game while we, light analysis. Don't put too much faith in it. The engine actually doesn't like my move bishop d7. It likes f takes e4. Pretty abstract stuff. I think there's queen d7 ideas with queen g4. This is a neat idea. Like queen d7, whatever, and then take and play like queen g4 to trade queens. That's pretty cool. That's looking like a good way of solving this problem of my bad queen on d7. So queen g4. Avoidance of trades here actually seems good, and I'm not really sure what's going on. Knight f7, but I get out of this awful pin that I was in, and then h3. I would think I would go back to d7 here, although my position looks a bit backwards. We've solved the main problem of this knight, and the queen on h4 like pinning me to death. f5, knight takes g5. Maybe white's still better here. My bishop on c8 is a pretty sad sight, and he's got pressure with like knight to d5 coming. So I think that knight h6 will live in the land of unclear, not really that reliable, setups. So anyway, queen h4, f5. This is just a 5-0 game against a CM here. Candidate master. I played this routine move, bishop d7. He plays knight c3, and then I played e6. Because I didn't really know what to do. I don't know that he's threatening anything, but I don't know how to get out of this terrible, pressure cooker I'm in on the king's side. I can't move my knight to f7, and I have no way of, untangling myself. So he's not really threatening anything either. Play e6, bishop d2. Rookie Ed, I had ideas of, laterally defending h7. My plan was actually to play rook e7, queen f8, and then defend my knight and play bishop d4 check or bishop f6. I mean, it's really awkward. Maybe queen g7 and get myself untangled here. White just voluntarily, it's a very bad move, queen g3. I hated queen g3. The computer doesn't give it a dubious, but knight f7 now, completely out of the woods. He trades knights. I'm just there with 2 bishops now, but he finds this plan to kind of lock the position with e5 a little bit later on. So rook a1, everything's developed. Bishop c6, And somewhere around here I went drastically wrong. He played passively. I have a good game, but I didn't know what to do. Threaten the cheapo, bishop h4. Not the greatest move in the world. I mean, his queen is not actually well placed here, and I went out of my way to chase that queen away. Bishop f6, now queen f3. Okay, that's a weird square. He didn't like queen f2. Maybe it wasn't so bad, because he can always meet bishop d4, bishop e3. We go king g8, and he trades my bishop pair off. And that means he gets secure control of e5. So I think that white is like probably just about equalized here. And then it gets more clearly equal in a minute. Then he takes c3, queen f6. This is just asking for e5. He plays queen f2. The game's totally equal, and I play queen d4. And I was actually concerned about him trading queens here. He played a different move, but I thought queen takes d4, c takes d4, knight e2. This requires some calculation. I think white was lazy, and he didn't want to bother to have to calculate a bunch of stuff. But, you know, this position actually to me looked like, yeah, this probably is about equal. So I could play e5, but that leaves my f-pawn hanging, you know? So we got a problem here, Houston. He takes f5, I just lost the pawn. Is it worth losing a pawn to get the strong center like this? Probably not. I mean, a pawn in an endgame like this, you know. So I have to play f takes e4, and he can pretty much equalize with knight takes d4. But he didn't do that. Instead, in this position, white played e5, which is a totally good move, locking it up. And I was running low on time, so I decided to just trade and play d5, which is pretty much forced here positionally. We don't want him to have the rook on e5. And here I was even thinking he might have like d4, pawn takes pawn, knight e2, but I have bishop b5 there. So he plays knight e2, and I made sure to play d4 to fix my pawns on dark squares. And our bishop's a little better than the knight, but I think objectively he might have some active weird moves, like the computer's saying b4, undermining move. That's a very aggressive move. I'm a higher rated player in Blitz. He probably is like, you know, trying to be practical, not create complications. He had more time, so he's just like playing solidly. He plays c4, locking it up. But that's giving me the possibility of a break with b5. I thought for a long time about taking here. I think this isn't bad. My concern was that maybe I'll have like a strong center, and it could be a little difficult, but that's probably the best for me to take there. Instead, I played this risky move b5, where he has a bunch of different continuations, taking rook c1, b3 is in the game. Again, the safe move. But he's kind of drifting a little bit. I played b takes c4, and here I was actually concerned about d takes c4, knight c1, and knight d3, trying to set up a blockade. But in that case, I have like a5, a4, breaking his structure. So it looks like he's already in trouble. He has to play this. We got rook b8. He plays rook b1, and now the engine's talking a5. Of course, I missed this idea. a5, a4 to take away the challenge outpost. I don't know what else to call it. We'll call it a challenge outpost. Oh, also, his knight's only square on b3. a5, brilliant move. I totally missed it. I played this routine move. He trades, which isn't necessary. He could have played rook b3 himself here. I think that's interesting, although I have bishop a4. It gets complicated, like bishop a4, rook a3, rook b4. Super weird situation. Black's a little better, but it's kind of complicated. Now I have the better structure, and now I just transfer the king over to the other side, and there's not a lot he can do. And it's pretty ugly, actually. Now my rook is free. I was talking about, like, principle of two weaknesses. We're going to try to open up the other side. He's got a bad minor piece, got a better minor piece. We have better pawn structure. Our rook is mobile, and I think that black has a serious advantage here. First h6, threatening g5. You know, he could play h4 here, but I'm still going to get in g5 eventually. I'll guarantee it. And we get it in. But he hangs tough, you know, and maybe I missed something here. I could have played g takes f4, g takes f4, but I didn't notice that my bishop was controlling g2. When I played rook a8, I thought take, I rook a8, rook g2, and he grabs the file first, but he doesn't have access. So this was a huge move, like g takes f4, g takes f4, rook a8, and I'm getting a second, you know, getting to attack the second weakness, which is like the queen side or the king side here. Really terrible position for white. He just melted down in the ending. But I missed it. Again, tactical hallucination. So then he takes, and I know that I'm clearly better here, but the winning mechanism wasn't real obvious to me. I did find b5, which turned out to be a good move, further like crunching his pawn structure. And now it's like isolated pawn, isolated pawn, isolated pawn, and we've got two islands in the sun. His knight has a hard time doing anything. Our bishop's a menace. Still, there's no like obvious way to win. I'm just probing and running out of time. And eventually I just started pushing my f pawn, and maybe it's good enough. You know, I was a little nervous that I'm facing outside pawns. He has these outside pawns, but I'm just too strong in the center. Protected passed pawn and another passed pawn supported by a rook. So watch what happens here. It's just like rook h8. I should have probably played rook f5 instead, and I think it's half dozen of 1/6 of the other in this position, honestly. I don't think rook h8 is so bad. Oh, he could have played h3. That's why my move is bad. He could have played h3, and it would have been a much longer struggle. That pawn's a little safer on h3. More accurate to go rook f5, take his e pawn. Okay, so he missed it. He was trying to move fast, but this is a lost rook ending. My just massive protected passer on d4 is an easy win. Rook takes e5, and I've got two connected passed pawns, which is just a tactical game over. So we managed to finish him off. We get the rook active behind his passed pawn while mobilizing our own connected passed pawns. And there's just no way in the world, even with like 20 seconds left, that even the fastest player in the world here is not gonna rob me of the full point. So he resigned here. Actually, he was getting really low on time. Interesting blitz game. It's a Grand Prix attack with bishop b5. Thanks for joining me at Video Chess Training on YouTube. I'm International Master William Paschall, and this was just a random blitz game. Thought it would be interesting to throw out here on the YouTube channel. Thanks, guys, and I'll talk to you soon. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and share the videos here on YouTube and elsewhere. Thanks again, Bill Paschall, and I'm out. Bye-bye.